This is Andreen. She's the CEO and founder of this multi-million-dollar company. Then one day, she just ups and disappears. Andreen was always an ambitious young woman. Born and raised in Jamaica, she always had dreams of doing big things in the US. And when she turned 19 years old, she got her chance. So one day, she's at the funeral of this family friend, and she meets a man named Dre. Now, Dre is a 29-year-old captain in the US Air Force who had happened to come back home to Jamaica, where he's originally from, for this particular funeral. The two of them hit it off quickly. Andreen was smart, beautiful, and full of ideas. Dre was older, had a successful military career, and was already in the US. I can see how they both provided value to one another. He brought her back to the US with him, and within a year, they were married. And shortly after that, they had a beautiful baby girl. And when Andreen got to the US, she didn't just sit at home as the wife of this military officer. Nah, she put some of those ideas she had into motion. They started an assisted living facility. And I say they, because while she was the brains of the operation, he had to liquidate his 401k and sell his BMW in order to get the money to get the business off the ground. But boy, it got off the ground in a big way. Within 7 years, this became a multi-million-dollar company. Andreen seemed to have it all. She came from Jamaica, made it to the US, and became a millionaire. But she was still missing that one thing: genuine romantic passion. Ideally, you'd get that in your marriage, but I don't think Andreen ever really felt all the way like that for Dre. What makes me say that, right? Well, get this. Before Andreen and Dre met in Jamaica, Andreen was dating this guy, let's call him Andy, for years. And this guy is like 14 years older than her too. Yeah, so while she was like 17, she's smashing this 31-year-old. And apparently she never really got over him. He was her first love. So one day, like 8 years into her marriage, Andreen, while visiting Jamaica, rekindles her relationship with Andy. And it wasn't just smashing. She was in love. She was in love. They got matching tattoos. She even tatted his birthday on her body. And when she got back home, she gave her husband some bogus story as to what the tats actually meant. But Dre didn't quite believe it. He did some digging on his own, and on social media, he found out about Andy and the matching tattoos. Now, I think it's safe to say this is where most men will get off the boat. Cheating is one thing, but getting a man's birthday tattooed on your body is diabolical work. For me, there's really no coming back from that. But I guess Dre was a different kind of dude. He threatened divorce. She didn't want to divorce, and he told her in order to stay married, she'd have to get the tats covered, she'd have to cut all contact with Andy, and also agree to never travel to Jamaica alone again. She agreed. But in my opinion, I don't think he ever really recovered from it. I also think this really is a good stopping point for her to realize where her heart truly is and just let him go through with the divorce. But according to her friends and family, she was not interested in splitting anything down the middle. She felt like this business was her baby, but she came into the marriage with nothing. So if they got divorced, she was going to have to split everything evenly down the middle. Tell me why. In February of 2019, at the tax preparer's office, Dre found out that Andreen had started a second business without his knowledge. I guess that was the straw that broke the camel's back. That night, they got into a big argument, which led to a big physical confrontation. And unfortunately, Andreen was unalived. And I'd love to tell you exactly how Andreen was unalived, but the truth is, no one really knows for sure. All we do know is Dre unalived her. He claims it was an accident and has a whole story, behind it, but there's really no telling. The reason we don't know for sure is because after she was unalived, Dre took her remains out into the woods and they remained there for months. And by the time they were recovered, the elements had taken their toll on them. So the medical examiner couldn't really officially determine the cause of death. That entire time, she was considered a missing person. Dre also hid the body, burned the remains, and repeatedly hit it with a hammer. Now, he claims he did all of that after her accidental unaliving. And because no one can really prove him otherwise, he was found not guilty of murder. But he was found guilty of manslaughter and tampering with evidence and was sentenced to 20 years in prison. R.I.P. to Andreen.